actual broadcast quality mics.
But Google Hangouts works so effectively, and the sound is truly, it picks up very, very well, truly high quality. Oh, we're back on the air.
Oh, look at that.
Yes, indeed. And we're back with another edition of the Cosmic Crossfire. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. Didn't you say something before we went on the air about my pop?
Yeah, you keep saying the title of the show like that. You're going to cost us nominations for future awards. We barely made the last one. Scuttlebutt around the internet is it was between us and somebody else, and they said their name of their show just a little bit worse, a little bit more irritating, a little bit more game showy. And it's like, okay, we got to give it to these guys. It's not quite as bad as this other one.
Wow, I appreciate that.
Theirs was called the Pop Culture Roundup, and they kept doing like a rodeo thing, like, come on down to the Pop Culture Roundup, yeehaw, rounding it all up.
Well, we are up against the. Actually, no, we're not up against. They're in a different category, I believe. The Pop Culture Leftovers. They're actually in two categories, and I wish them all the best as far as that's concerned. So any good pop culture podcasts that get nominated and actually go out and win, all more power to them. But we're here talking some great stuff right now from the man with the legend behind McCallumFilms.com. You want to check out all of his great projects, provided he's able and up and
holy crap, I did an update on the website and cleaned it up a bit.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. See what happens when you drink so much Theraflu?
It's a year in the making. Like 1 year and 3 Theraflus later.
Yes,
anyway,
yes.
I do apologize for the sound of my voice to all our listeners out there. I'm a little bit under the weather. The sniffle bugs have infested my brain.
But he's gutting it out for us right here in the Cosmic Crossfire, and we truly appreciate it. Once again, check out all the great stuff that's going on, including the Kitty documentary, already how you can watch and or buy Nintendo Quest Power Tour,
Missing Nintendo Quest news, and I actually have Kitty news too. I can share too.
All right. Well, please share with it. Share away.
Well, regarding Nintendo Quest and the Nintendo Quest Power Tour, the series sequel to Nintendo Quest, I just got news that it's going to be shown in Africa now. So we're just looking to get a really good deal in Asia, and then we can officially say it's been sold in every major market.
That's awesome to hear. I cannot congratulate you enough on your success with the film. Once again, you got to check it out, Nintendo Quest. It's just a truly, truly awesome adventure indeed. And then also as well, if you get a chance, Nintendo Quest Power Tour, which is their it's actually Rob and Jay Bartlett, who's the actual guy that they're going on this Nintendo Quest. It's actually their adventures as they present the film all over the country, and it just basically just documents that entire quest. So check it out, Nintendo Quest and Nintendo Quest Power Tour. It might have someone else in there too, but we won't. We'll leave that as a surprise. We check it out on what?
I didn't say anything. You might hear your voice pop up at least episode 2.
Yes.
Might have some on-screen camera time for Gerald there.
Yes, my voice is so
regular voice.
Yes, my voice is so loud it didn't even need a mic, but we won't go there. But to turn on. But anyways, check it out, RobMcCallumFilms.com. But right now, Rob, we've got a lot of great pop culture things to talk about. Let's get to it. So, Rob, what is on your mind today? Well, actually, besides Kleenex and Theraflu and all that good stuff, but what is on your mind when it comes to
lots of things? Before I jump into this week's topics, I will say that I did get some exciting news about the Kitty documentary, Kitty Origins and Evolutions as well. It's going to be sold as a 3-disc pack in a CD case format, and it'll probably be sold in the music section, which might be a little bit more fitting for that particular release. It'll come with a DVD and Blu-ray of the film, plus a brand new live album made up of various concerts and different sessions from the last 20 years, which is pretty cool.
Anything from your that latest live performance or no?
Not that I can talk about yet. I was actually cutting it today. We will plan to probably release it in tandem when the documentary goes out there, but it's not a part of that release. It'll be separate kind of setup.
I didn't know if that performance, you could take it that quickly as far as from that live performance, but that's okay. No problem. Check it out. Again, that's awesome to hear in regards to Kitty documentary, just coming in that great big set, and you can get more information from robmccallumfilms.com.
Yeah, so once I can share more details, you can just check out robmccallumfilms.com. We'll have more information up there, as well as some of the next points that we're going to talk about today. Some of them will definitely filter into some future blog posts, especially this very first one, Gerald.
All right. So what, pray tell, is on your mind in pop culture?
Well, David Goyer made headlines recently as he is set to direct the new live-action Masters of the Universe film for Sony. Now, Masters of the Universe, of course, is the world of He-Man, and if you've heard our show before, then you know how much of a fan I am of everything He-Man and Masters of the Universe, and that you know that I am a co-director and writer on a documentary that will be released next year called Power of Grayskull, the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe that looks back at the origins of the franchise and its evolutions through the years. Now, David Goyer is the latest director to be tied to it. John Chu was on it as well, and so was McGee at one point. David Goyer is known for directing The Unborn and Blade 3. Much more known for a writer. He has writing credits on some of the Dark Knight trilogy films, Batman Begins most notably. So he's not exactly a massive A-lister for it, especially in terms of directing, but it is nice to see that that project is moving forward. My question to you, Gerald, is what are the problems with a live-action Masters of the Universe film going to be for Sony, given how long this film has been in development? It's been in development since 2005. Let me just say that.
I can tell you first off, Skeletor. You know me. Ever since the Geico commercials came out, it just reaffirmed my affection for the coolness of Skeletor and the way he actually is that scene-stealing, hammy villain that takes over the entire franchise, in my opinion. I think recreating him on screen, first of all, yes, you could recreate some with CG effects and whatnot, and should be able to get away fine with it. But to me, it's going to be the hard one to recreate and get a great feel for that type of character, or other side characters. Battle Cat, for instance, that might be a tough one as well. There are certain side characters that I think are best left in an animated version. Whether they get left on the cutting room floor, that remains to be seen. But if they're brought into an animated version, if they're brought into a live action version, I think that translation of how sometimes very humorous or very affable type of characters on both sides, because I have affection for characters on both sides of the realm as far as Masters of the Universe is concerned. Like, I like Man-at-Arms. I liked watching his daughter. Thought she was a very cool character as well. But I think some of that will get lost in translation if it goes to live action.
I liked watching his daughter, words people usually don't say out loud.
It came across wrong, and it was better in post. But Tila, that's right. I can't remember her name, but I thought she was a very strong. I thought she was a very. Oh no, Orko, man, you can get that guy's like Scrappy Doo to me. Flick him out of the way. But
that's what I was going to. But you're probably referring to him in terms of leaving some of the other characters to a more animated presence.
Well, like Battle Cat, for instance. Tila, obviously you could translate her into a live action performance, but
they have before.
Yeah, they have before, but she came off very stale, and as far as very wooden, as far as comparative to her animated character, which seemed to have a lot more life to it. Same thing with Man-at-Arms, and like I said, Skeletor is the one for me that I think they're really going to have a hard time translating into live action.
The hardest thing, because I know a little bit something about this, having made the documentary for them, is that Masters of the Universe, for everybody that really doesn't know it, is essentially like trying to combine everything that is great about Star Wars and everything that is great about Lord of the Rings. It has, or The Matrix, in terms of what kind of technology gets showcased and used in everyday world, and then the sorcery of of Lord of the Rings. So it's like sorcery and science fiction, more or less, which is a really hard balance to explain to people why high-tech stuff works on a certain level, and then turn around and say, no, well, magic works on that same level. Usually it's one or the other. So that's a really hard blend. Top that off with having a main character who at some point is called He-Man, which isn't exactly the most adult-sounding word. It's kind of goofy, right? It's kind of silly. It is over masculinized. It's too macho, and in an era where there is a lot of people and critics, especially, screaming for more gender diversity and putting more like women heroes on screen. Look no further than Wonder Woman. Do we really need the complete opposite of that with He-Man coming on screen? It's a real hard balance. It's a name that you can't take serious, and it's hard to pin an entire film around that. I had read Justin Mark's script called Grayskull, and having interviewed him for the documentary, he said, my goal was to only count on my hand the number of times that we ever heard He-Man throughout the 90 minutes, because it was so silly. It was always about the chosen one, looking for the sword of He. When is he going to come here? So he tried to play it off like that. I don't know that his script... I mean, a lot of people said the script was great. I didn't love it as a fan in particular. There was certainly a lot of characters that kind of made their way into it, but it was a very Batman Begins kind of feel. And I think for something like Masters of the Universe to work now, you've got to go a slightly more light-hearted, comedic route, something along the lines of maybe Thor Ragnarok. Not that I've seen it, but a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe, where the guy at the center can be this big tough guy, but he's also got to kind of have a levity about everything that's going on. So I would definitely tell Sony to lean towards that side, because I don't think a Game of Thrones version of Masters of the Universe is going to work.
I don't think so either. I think it'll come off poorly. It did before in the past with Dolph Lundgren and his performance in it, and just everybody surrounding it. Yes, everything is now a little bit better. CG, performance-wise, green screening and all that, it makes it a little bit more palpable, but I still don't see it coming out in a favorable fashion. I think like I said, for me, it's about the performances itself. And I was going to ask you the other day, I saw something flash through Facebook as far as a video on the origins of Skeletor and how he became the Skeletor, that he is currently in the series. I don't know if you've seen it. It was made after the original series. It was a little bit more modern animation. I think when he was called Skeletor. Keldor, that's right. Keldor. And I don't know if you've seen it or not as far as the newer animation of it. Have you?
Everybody that's listening, I'm giving Gerald just a blank stare at this point, because he's asking a filmmaker who just did a documentary on the entire history of the series if I have seen.
I'm asking if you have.
You're asking. Of course I have. It's from Mike Young Productions. It came out in 2002. It was the relaunch of the brand. It started on Cartoon Network with a 90-minute kind of feature, more or less 3 episodes, that basically explained the origins of He-Man and Skeletor.
Okay, but like I said, it did not come off. That even did not come off as well, because there was kind of like a detachment from that original series. Now, mind you, it's so hard to recreate the nuance and the simple-mindedness that came along with that original series, plus the animation on it exactly wasn't so hot, and trying to recreate that exactly wouldn't be the best deal. But doing a live action version, I think it's a losing proposition as well.
Well, I'll have to disagree, because I really liked the 2002 series. I thought it brought a lot of smart writing to the table, setting up Keldor, who eventually becomes Skeletor early on, as Prince Adam's uncle and brother to Randor, who becomes King of Eternity. You have a nice Hamlet kind of synergy going there.
Eternity, or is it Eternia? I thought it was Eternia.
That's what I said.
It's that cold.
Probably the sniffles. It's probably the sniffles. And you got a nice Hamlet synergy going on there between the evil uncle who wants to get his place on the throne. He can't, and then the prince is kind of stuck in the middle. What is he going to do? And he can't reveal his identity, yet he still has to defend. There's a lot of good stuff there to mind, but you can also easily see the similarities to stuff that we see in Thor with Loki, and Thor himself on the crown as well, especially with Loki coming from a race of blue people, which Skeletor is as well. So,
But you see the Geico commercial, and the Geico commercial took from the old version, and you see it didn't take from the Cartoon Network version. It tried to replicate the old cartoon from the 1980s when it recreated that charming commercial that just came out this year.
yes.
So I'm saying
best known series. But what I'm saying, I appreciate the 2002 one better.
Okay.
Regardless of the fandom that comes from those 130 initial episodes and the $1 billion toy line that went with it. I think the 2002 episodes are much better, and they won Emmys, which is really cool. It's the first time a He-Man series was actually awarded any kind of, awards, which was really nice.
Well, there you go. And I can't wait for Masters of the Universe to come out next year for you guys. As far as that's concerned, the definitive history of He-Man, so I can actually understand the full nuance of it and get the full fix on He-Man. And like I said, because I was not privy to this early 2000 series, and that's something that was kind of illuminating for me. So I definitely have to check that out in detail as well.
Yeah, there you go. Switching gears, speaking of distribution,
although you got to get rid of what's his name, yeah. Is he annoying in any situation or what?
Who? I only heard that.
Or Orko.
I like Orko.
You would.
I do. He's great. He's some good comic relief. Everybody needs a Sancho Panza. Come on.
Get him out of here.
Get you out of here. Pop culture cosmos. Come on. What are you doing? Switching gears to more distribution side of things. There was a big Netflix news talk, and there was 3 big points that came across there. Those 3 big points from Uncle Ted, as I like to call him, was Netflix is going to reach a 50-50 split between licensed and original content by 2019. They completely downplayed Disney's streaming plans, and live sports are not going to be a part of Netflix's platform desires. So that conjured a question in my mind, Gerald. What is more important for Netflix to focus on? Original content, worrying about their competitors, or exploring new kinds of content?
At least for the foreseeable future, for them, they're just going to go with what has brought them to the table, and that's original content. Because Stranger Things, Orange is the New Black, and all that is something that has garnered them a lot of acclaim and a lot of fans. The Adam Sandler movies that went straight to Netflix, the whole 9 yards that they've brought as original programming has gotten them a value concept in consumers' minds. Now, once the Disney streaming service comes out, that's a whole new ballgame. They're going to be providing things that Netflix cannot compete with. I know the other day that Netflix just showed a video about a new sci-fi series that they're developing, which is definitely very intriguing, but they need more of those great outside-the-box ideas in order to go ahead and still continue their status as one of the premier streaming services around. Now, I do think as well that going outside of the box is something that they will need to look at, but in the near future, I don't think they'll have to do it quite yet. But once that Disney streaming takes hold, once that Disney streaming service takes hold, I think they are going to have to look at any available option that they can get to get more people to watch what they've got.
Yeah. So your short-term forecast is keep putting their money and their resources into original content, and then you're suggesting once Disney streaming services launches to do more of that, or what?
I think they should go and look to outside sources and acquire outside sources,
back to like licenses.
Yeah, or licenses or sports or something, because remember Disney, when it comes out, that streaming service, if they wanted to go do that route, they could go through all their ESPN stuff, ABC, obviously all their Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, pretty soon, possibly even the Fox stuff. That may even come to fruition, because the latest rumors has them close to the acquisition and the leader right now in the race to buy 21st Century Fox. So You could have all that stuff as well. So that will be a complete network once it goes on the air. And once it really gains attraction and gains a foothold with an audience, that's going to be tough to beat. And in order to try and compete with them, they're going to probably try and have to reach to things outside of just their original programming when that hits.
I think the thing that Netflix needs to do the most, and more than anything else, is I think they need to come up with an identity for themselves. When you start getting a 50-50 content split between licensing stuff that other people have made and creating your own, you have to start saying what kind of content and what kind of platform you are. And it's only really kind of been floating in my mind the last 3 or 4 months that nobody knows what Netflix is aside from the service that it provides. It is a destination to go and watch a bunch of stuff, but people will talk about the amount of time it takes to find something and why they want to have Netflix versus Amazon is a question that comes up all the time, or Hulu. It's just another streaming service. But the second that Netflix gets an identity, then they'll have a much more stronger marketing angle. They'll be able to develop more original content that fits what that identity is, and they'll be able to better acquire licensed content that suits who they are too, which will really future casting will separate them from a competition point of view with Disney, because if Disney is doing their properties and maybe a family-friendly vibe because it's Disney, Netflix can maybe be that, edgy, barely can't see this anywhere else kind of thing, original content that'll blow your mind. You'll never see this anywhere but Netflix, if that's the vibe they want. Similar to how HBO has famously said, it's not cable, it's HBO. And I really think Netflix has to look at what HBO did in the past and really start modeling that going forward. And I think that will really set apart who they are and what they did. And I mean, HBO went into comedy. They went into live sports and that stuff too. And I think it worked to varying degrees for them. Ultimately, they've come back and they're very much essentially what Netflix is now. A lot of original stuff that they commission, but they still license a lot of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where Netflix chooses to kind of put their pennies.
That's true, but I think they're, at this point in time, although the gap is narrowing, that they're just a little bit better in creating those event-type formats, such as when Game of Thrones is about ready to come back out on the scene for another season, or Westworld, or just those type of event-type programming. I think they're just a little bit better than that, although with Stranger Things and some other series that they have in the queue, they are not too far behind as far as presenting their material.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the amount of roots that HBO has in the development process, because HBO is essentially the chief production company on a lot of the stuff that they're producing. They still partner up with a co-producing company or team, but Netflix, on the other hand, it's more of a third-party relationship that they hire and basically give a budget to these companies to do it, so it's less hands-on. And when you see stuff like Netflix Original come up when you're watching something, that might not be the case. They may have just acquired it and funded the latest season of a TV show, or bought the rights for your territory that you're watching in. So like Riverdale in Canada, for example, is a Netflix original, but I know in the States it's on CW. But because we don't have CW here, this is how it airs, and it's branded as a Netflix original. So that's a little misleading as well.
Definitely, I couldn't agree with you more on that. You've had some solid points indeed as far as that's concerned. And that's a great question to ask, because I think when Disney's streaming service comes out, I think that the landscape of the streaming services are going to have to change. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of casualties from it that Disney is all the more happy to try and make because of it.
Well, it wouldn't be a pop culture cosmos if we didn't talk about the DC universe again. This time, there was a lot of tweeting going on with hashtag JLReunion as it stormed Twitter. And that's for a Justice League animated movie reunion. I don't know if you caught some of this happening online, Gerald, but a lot of the voice actors chimed in as a swelling of fandoms have been asking for swelling of fandoms. Yeah, the Theraflu's kicking in. A swelling of fans have been asking for an animated Justice League movie to come out, given that DC is doing these direct to video stories based on a lot of graphic novels. And the actors are pretty touched that, it's been remembered, and they're like, a lot of people didn't know why it was canceled in the first place. First Justice League and then Justice League Unlimited, which themselves are spin-offs of Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series, which are these, these flag bearers for when it comes to not just some of the best superhero animation and cartoons in history, but some of the best stories for these DC characters. And as much as I would like to see an animated movie reunion of Justice League and have that show maybe be revived in the same way that we saw stuff like Family Guy and Futurama get revived through outpouring of support, I don't know that it would be good for Warner Brothers to have a Justice League movie come out that is doing better than their current Justice League film that's out there, or their plans. Like, would it be welcome, do you think, compared to their current DC films, or would that just be cutting themselves off at the wrists?
I don't think it would be as widely received as I understand. You got the trends of the online is just, you have to be very wary, because some of that is false hope when you bring it out there. I think that it would do okay. I just don't think it would do as well as a lot of people are anticipating, because I see from the numbers right now with Justice League. Yeah, it's doing all right. I mean, it's over $500 million at the box office, but it's not doing as well as they had hoped, meaning Warner Brothers. I see that more for DC, trying to be a tentpole for a DC streaming service. That would probably, to me, be a little bit better option for it to be a series, whatnot, on that streaming platform.
Well, in the same way that DC never wants to put Batman or really Superman on the small screen because they want to reserve those opportunities for the theatrical releases, I really think it would cloud judgment. And I can guarantee if they picked up that series and featured, the voice actors who are hell of performers in a feature-length film that had the same vibe and the same kind of crew that made it so great back in the day, I think it would be a better film. Now, that's throwing the monetary question out there. I don't know that as many people as we know, say it got released theatrically, would go see an animated Justice League movie versus a live action one with the current cast. But movie to movie, not taking into account cost of making it or what it would receive, I would pretty much guarantee it would be a better story and executed much better than.
Oh, that I don't agree. That I don't disagree with. I just tell you, when it comes at the end of the day, box office wise, as far as just sheer dollars, not how much it costs, not profit margin or things of that nature, just sheer dollars. I don't think you're going to be able to get the 500, 600, 700 million dollars that the current slate of DC films seem to be getting.
The only way that I think that they could do it is honestly if they did like a CG Pixar kind of approach to it. If they did basically The Incredibles, but as the Justice League, and they made it really kid-driven and really family-friendly, then I can see something great happening. Just my 2 cents.
But I don't think that'll be the route that they go, because
they won't go that route, because, we know they are now. Stuck in the mud.
PG-13, R type, straddling that line as far as their content is concerned.
But that makes me wonder, right? Because they know how well received this other stuff is. Why aren't they doing more stuff? Like, why don't they want to make good films? I don't know. And it's a dumb question, I guess, because I think they do want to make good films. But why are they trying to make films like this when they have an existing proven track record and expertise on how to handle that material and how to handle those characters with success? That's a conundrum that needs to be sorted, I think. So, speaking of what you were talking about Netflix with other sci-fi series that they were teasing, it looks like in China there's going to be 10 new big budget sci-fi films coming some day and date with North America in the next 12 to 18 months. Now, that really caught my attention because it's all original IP other than a few that were based off short stories and novels. And it really shows an emphasis on creating new projects in a box office market that continues to grow. It's going to be the #1 box office in the world really soon. So my question to you, Gerald, is do you think that this will be a signal to Hollywood to follow suit and invest in these original IP ideas and really go for gusto? Or do you think Hollywood's going to play it safe and continue to sequelize the hell out of everything and stray away from more original projects.
I think they're going to see that go on with the China market and still kind of shy away from it because they feel the thing that I think, okay, what I think they are estimating is that they believe that the Chinese audience is a separate market in and of itself, because the way they will sometimes they will pick out certain movies that they really will get behind, and some other movies that they just will not get behind that are popular here. Warcraft, for instance, was a dud here. Warcraft over there was a huge hit. There are other movies, Star Wars, for instance.
Pacific Rim is a really good example, too.
Yeah.
It was almost 50-50. But The Force Awakens only did 6% of their box office gross in China.
Exactly. That's just what I was going to say. And Pacific Rim Uprising is being made and being released today, or next year, only because of the China market put them over the top.
Yeah, I really hope that Hollywood sees what they're doing, though, and starts investing in that. I mean, that's the obvious thing that a filmmaker wants, to say, like, create new stuff, create new things, and get new stuff out there. Because I just don't see it as a long-term success plan for Hollywood to continue developing the IP that exists, and then still depend on the China market in order to make up half that revenue. If China is building new things for people to see in new worlds that they've never really explored before, say maybe 25% that exist in novels, then that should signal to Hollywood, you guys need to create new things if you want to have a stronger foothold here. Don't just keep bringing out the nostalgia pony train. Give us something that's new to worthwhile to look at so that it can grow. I just think there's a ceiling on anything that you've already done before. In the same way that we've talked about before, if you do a sequel to Nintendo Quest, can it ever really be better than the first film? There's a ceiling there. Like, it has to exist within that. And I mean, people have talked about this before. How many sequels are better than the original films? There's very rare for that to happen. Godfather Part 2, I think, is one of them. Empire Strikes Back. Gerald, any other ones that you can think of off the top of your head? Toy Story 2, maybe?
Maybe. I personally like Toy Story 3 the best, but yeah, Toy Story 2 I think was really very, very good. And I think it slightly is above Toy Story. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I like Toy Story 3 for the win there as well. It's a well done film. But sequels are hard to do, so you can never really capture it. You might be printing money, but it's always going to be a lesser return as a result. And I guess it's, do you want to risk and gamble on something big, or do you want to play it safe and get 70 to 75% of what you did before because it's easier to do?
Well, I'll tell you with this, that Hollywood is running out of those bankable, paint by the numbers franchises that they've been leaning on for the past, for this century virtually. The Transformers, the Jurassic Worlds, the Avatars, the Star Wars, these well-known sci-fi names. They're in some cases, especially with Transformers, they already hit a wall. Hunger Games is done. So many others, these sci-fi staples are just going by the wayside because they've already hit their plateau and already gone down. So some other things have to be done, and other ideas have to come to the forefront, because that the fans still want to see sci-fi out there. I'm just hopeful that we can come up with. I'm just hopeful for filmmakers to come up with these new ideas, like new versions of The Matrix and new versions of sci-fi films that will come out there and will captivate audiences. And I'm hoping that they'll be able to go ahead and get that chance. I think they'll have to, just by sheer turnover, but it's still for the short term, I think it's going to be, unfortunately, still connect the dots with the whatever sequel that was made before, that we've seen already 2, 3, 4 times before already.
We'll never get another Star Wars if we just keep making Star Wars.
But eventually that time has to come, because, like I said, these franchises that have been around for so long and have so many iterations, at some point the ebb and flow as far as audience returns are going to go down. Like I said, Transformers is probably the leading film right now that you probably want to stay away from after Bumblebee is made. If that really goes in the tank, then that's definitely a sign that that series needs to be put to rest for at least the time being. I know Ridley Scott still has a fascination with putting aliens on the screen. He has said so within the past few days in interviews, but you and I both know the laws of diminishing returns with that series. So other series with the sci-fi genre theoretically should take its place. So that does leave room for some new ideas to get to the screen. It's just going to take some time in doing so.
Well, I mean, and that brings up a point that's not on my list, but we can talk about it because it was pretty new, and that's, Tarantino in talks to direct a Star Trek film. Like, that's great, and I'm glad people are excited and everything, but it's still going to be a Star Trek film more than a Tarantino film. So is it going to be the best Trek film? Well, it doesn't matter, but it still exists within the Trek universe. It's not going to be anything necessarily new. It's just, what is Tarantino going to do with those characters, and how is he going to treat them? It almost reminds me when he directed, did he direct the series finale of ER, or one of the final episodes in the final season?
I think he's done ER and CSI, if memory serves.
Yeah, so like ultimately, like, that's a great experiment, but it's not something new that is going to make an impact, like a new film from him, for example. So I'm glad that people are excited, and Paramount's probably really stoked that this is a way to inject some life into the fourth film into that series, or maybe it's the fifth, depending on where that prequel Trek film goes with, Chris Hemsworth as Kirk's dad, or whatever's going on there.
That was mentioned, about 2 years ago at Comic-Con, and has pretty much died since.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's just bargaining on behalf of Hemsworth, who's, already tied up in Thor and doesn't necessarily want to reprise that role. He's got a lot going on as it is, So hard to say there.
But then again, his career is not gone well outside of the Thor universe. Maybe, so, like I said, Star Trek, that brilliant performance aside, and then also as well the one with what's her name, the Snow White one.
Oh, the Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah, Snow White and the Huntsman. That was good, but then the sequel was horrible.
Yeah, I never saw the sequel. Never saw it. Probably because I heard it was horrible.
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as his career, he'll find something. And even if he's just Thor forever, there are worse fates to have as an actor. Look at Mark Hamill.
That's true.
It's not horrible. The last thing I wanted to talk about, Gerald, definitely veers into sci-fi territory, and it's a little bit outside the realm of our usual topics, which are very concrete and kind of headliney. This is definitely pulled from a headline from a week or so back, where allegedly the first human head transplant took place. Now, it was supposed to take place, I think it was mid-November, like the 17th or so, when it was first reported. I didn't catch images on it or articles on it until last week. Now, it's up in the air as how legitimate this was, and the deal with it, I believe, is from an Italian scientist or doctor who is quite controversial as it is. Regardless of the legitimacy of that, let's say that it is the real deal, and we can transplant people's heads. How do you think something like that would impact pop culture?
Well, this crazy world of ours, especially with the advent of social media, things like that will just go viral just like that and just blow up to all, just everybody, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just go, it will go nuts. And the fact that the internet will just, help perpetuate this continual blow up and viral effect of a story like this coming to fruition would just be to me, it would be very insane. But
just think about how it would impact the world of pop culture and entertainment. Forget everybody talking on Twitter about pop culture cosmos, # Gerald's new body. Like, just think about what that would mean. It means you could maybe like live forever. It's like, oh, Rob got his new body. He's got his head on tight this time, and like you could live as long as you could afford new bodies, or however that works, and like be a part of every media change. So you could be around forever. Facebook might never die because Mark Zuckerberg or Berg will never go away, because it'll be like Futurama. His head will be in a jar. It'll be attached to a body, and we'll never get any new ideas because the same people are around.
Well, also, it reminds me of exactly the show that is being developed by Netflix. To think about the consciousness keeps on getting transferred. It's the vessels that they're in that keeps getting changed. So I don't know. That seems very out there. Maybe it'll be a possibility 1,000 years from now, but I don't see it.
Gerald.
I don't see it. I don't see it coming. I don't see Rob McCallum taking his head out. There you go. Putting him back on.
1,000 years. I don't know. And the only reason why I don't say thousands of years is because I don't think 50 years ago, 100 years ago, people would say, oh, you can't create a magic box that can tell you all the information of the world and, conveniently connect you to anybody and talk. That'll never exist. And yet here we are. Like in the last century alone, I just think of all the scientific and medical advancements there have been. And if there's just a shred of truth to this news story, a shred of Jurassic Park-like truth to this news story, just think about that. Not only could we have different, bodies with heads, we could have a theme park full of dinosaurs.
Well, Rob, it looks like you're getting a little ahead of me on that one.
Nobody cared about that joke.
Oh,
yeah. That's it for the Cosmic Crossfire this week, though. There you go. Let us know what you think. If you have thoughts on David Goyer directing live-action Masters Universe, the future of Netflix, whether DC should do an animated Justice League film, the sci-fi push in original content development in China, and of course, how you think a human head transplant allegedly happening, how that could affect society, and more importantly, how that might affect pop culture and entertainment as we know it.
Well, two heads are definitely better than one.
I take it if we flip a coin, you're going to choose heads.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, you can send your thoughts into popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, Game Source, and RobMcCallumFilms.com. So just, or Rob McCallum Films on Facebook, and just, share your thoughts with us on what we talked about. Or if you have ideas for the Cosmic Crossfire, we'll go ahead and take a stab at it as well. I was thinking of another, head pun joke there, but I'm pretty much headless at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say you just lost your head.
Yes, there you go. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of the Cosmic Crossfire. Rob, I appreciate you gutting it out today. Just drink up on that Theraflu and keep voting out there, everyone. We truly need your help to keep voting Pop Culture Cosmos in the 2017 Discover Pods Awards. You can check that out on the Discover Pods website, discoverpods.com. If you get a chance, we truly appreciate you voting for our show. It's on page 2, Best Society and Culture Podcast. And Rob, I cannot thank you enough for your help in creating this awesome show that we do each and every week, twice a week, to audiences out there. Just truly a pleasure talking to you on a regular basis and helping create the Pop Culture Cosmos. In fact, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here as the Pop Culture Cosmos right now.
Is that on the record or off the record?
That is on the record. I have my eternal gratitude, and I give you nothing but a heads up as far as being part of the Pop Culture Cosmos.
You better make some headway without me.
Oh!